Hello, fellow artists. Welcome to today's video. I have a question for you guys. When you learn to paint, how do you approach it? When you want to learn something, where do you start? Do you know where to start, or does it just happen? So I want to give you a couple of tips, and I'll say tips in quotation marks. And a better way to describe this would be, I want to give you a few things to keep in mind when you study. I'm no pro, I'm not an expert, but I do find myself doing better in my studies and in my actual work when I do keep these things in mind. So maybe they'll work out for you. A lot of these things are based on fundamentals and ways of studying that are in books, YouTube, blogs, everything. So, tip number 1, first thing to keep in mind is plan from the very beginning before you even pull up a photograph. What do you want to get out of your next practice? Are you going to get better at values? Are you going to get better at colors? What do you want to improve on? And you might find yourself thinking, I have a lot of things that I want to improve on. Fundamentally, you need to break it down. Don't study 3 things at a time. Your mind can't handle that. That's not how we improve skills in general. The good thing about breaking down what you want to learn, say values or color or line work or brush work, there are different ways and exercises to get better at those things. That leads me to my second tip. Find references that reflect what you want to study. You can get them from real life, set up a still life or something, find a photo reference on Pinterest, Pixabay, anything, anywhere. But do that once you know what you want to get out of it, out of your study session. And the reason for that is, say, I want to improve on values, like I did with this orange. What I had done earlier, which I posted a video on, when I want to solely focus on values at its core, at its fundamental, is to study black and white. That helps see the progress of the grayscale, of how dark something is and how light something is. Once I grasp those concepts, I try to do it in a more difficult way, like this orange, and I try to break it down, what it would be like in black and white. But that's why I don't want to focus on other details, and that's why my first attempt went so poorly, because I got too overwhelmed by the fabric behind it and I got too overwhelmed by the reflected light and everything. Tip number 3, plan your process. You can sketch your subject, you can make an underdrawing with the paint, or you can make an underpainting. And the underpainting will focus on those values, or at least on the shadow light areas of your composition or of your subject. And another thing you can do is thumbnailing if needed, but maybe if you're doing landscapes or you're doing plein air portrait, you want to figure out where you want it on your page or canvas. So those are things to keep in mind. And the reason it helps you is because it creates that guideline of what you're trying to focus on or what you're trying to paint. Tip number 4, set yourself a timer. And the reason for that is with studies like this, like the orange, or maybe a portrait where you're trying to understand the planes, or a landscape where you're trying to understand the foreground, the midground, and the background, then set yourself a timer, maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20, depending on what you are trying to do. And that will allow you to really focus on what you're trying to achieve or what you're trying to study. So in my first attempt at this orange, I did not set myself a timer. It took me 40 minutes and I felt like I wasted 40 minutes, but then I tried again and again, and both of those other times I had myself a timer and I was able to break it down and better focus on what I was trying to learn, which kind of leads me to my next point. Tip number 5. Forget about detail. Instead, block it out. And the way that you can block it out is through your underpainting or with simple shapes. In my case, with the orange, I blocked it out with the dark values, the midtones, and the highlights. And next, number 6, paint what you see, not what you think you see. By that, I mean it helps you to analyze and it helps you to break down and understand what you're looking at, which then you can learn to apply into your work. So, last tip number 7, keep practicing and try repetition. Paint what you just painted again. How can you approach it differently? What did you mess up with in the first try? What can you improve on? Like I said in my own orange painting, I got overwhelmed. I tried to do too many things at a time. And the way that I could approach it differently was giving myself a specific time frame to complete it, which helped me improve on my problem solving, I'll say. Where are the shadows? How can I get to that midtone? How can I get to that highlight in a faster way? And part of that was a bigger brush. Part of that was not doing an underdrawing with pencil, just making the basic shape of the orange with the paint itself and blocking out those values instead of going one brush mark at a time or painting that whole area first, because that messed it up in a couple of instances. So here's my last little message for you guys if you got here. Progress and improvement comes with investing your time. Like, if you don't paint often, you won't improve as fast as you might want, or you won't see results as fast as you might expect. So as long as you make an effort and stay committed, you will make progress and you will see it. It might take some time, but it's there. Especially with this repetition exercise, if you do it 3 times, you'll be able to learn at least one thing from each one that you did wrong and that you did right, that you will be able to apply and or change in your next painting. Yeah, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Don't forget to leave a like, comment on anything that you can relate on or anything that you have found that works for you. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody. Happy painting.